Throughout history, there have been people who have committed some of the most heinous crimes fathomable. For those crimes, they have been convicted and sentenced to death. Welcome to Death Row Executions, where we take a look into the lives of society's worst offenders. And now, your host, Air.
Andre Thomas was born on March 17, 1983 in Oklahoma. His parents, Rochelle and Danny Thomas, had 6 children altogether, but Rochelle ended up raising the kids all by herself after moving to Sherman, Texas. Andre and his siblings had no reprieve from an unstable upbringing after moving to Texas because Rochelle suffered from depression and drank excessively to heal her pain. Part of her pain and heartache came because she had been sexually assaulted. Unfortunately, not only was she unable to care for herself, but she let the house go as well. There was often no running water, no electricity, and/or no heat. Rochelle was not the only one in the family who suffered from substance abuse, so anyone Andre was around was not a good role model. His family was also no stranger to violence. He had been physically assaulted, and an uncle he had never met was killed back in 1973 by Andre's grandfather. There was a time Andre tried to make something out of his horrible situation and environment. He remained respectful and reserved and liked attending church and Sunday school. He did well in school and was even able to attend a gifted and talented program. Some of his hobbies included sketching futuristic cars as well as taking old cars apart and reassembling them. By age 10, Andre began to change mentally. His thoughts were no longer happy and focused. He started hearing voices and would tell his classmates that he heard angels and devils arguing in his head. He then started to believe and tell others that he was Raiden from Mortal Kombat. It was not pretend, but a genuine belief. Andre had no family around to give him mental health support, so he started drinking and smoking weed to stop the voices in his head. A couple of years after the voices began, he was placed on probation after being caught with controlled substances. After his probation was over, he continued on with his downward spiral. He tried hurting himself on multiple occasions and started a life of crime. In 1998, he was busted for stealing a car and was sent to juvie. Despite his thoughts and attempts to hurt himself, he still did not receive any mental health services while locked up or when he was released. Now in high school, Andre began dating a young woman by the name of Laura Boren, who was born about 9 months after he was. Laura ended up getting pregnant, and she gave birth in August of 1999 to a boy they named Andre Jr. Despite Andre's age, he was so far behind in school and was still in the 9th grade at the time. School was too much to handle, so he ended up dropping out without having ever completed the 9th grade. He did, however, start working several jobs to support his new family, and he eventually earned a GED. When it was nearing Andre's 18th birthday, he and Laura planned to wed. On March 17, 2001, Andre and Laura got married. Angered by their courtship, Andre's mother forced Andre and his family to move out of her house just a mere 2 weeks after they got married. Laura and Andre Jr. were welcomed in her parents' home, but Andre was not. Laura was a Caucasian woman, and some say the dislike of their relationship stemmed from the color of their skin. Andre had to find somewhere else to live. Thankfully, one of his brothers accepted him into his home. Because Andre and Laura were separated for months into their marriage, they quickly grew apart, and Laura began dating a new man. A couple of years later, while still married to Andre, she gave birth to a girl named Leah Hughes. Because he believed Laura did not remain faithful and loyal to him during their marriage, Andre's mental state took a dive into darkness. He began obsessing over an apocalypse and the Book of Revelation. He was also unable to keep a job, but was still living with his brother. On one occasion, he got into a physical altercation with his brother and seriously injured him. Surprisingly, Andre avoided jail time, but his brother was actually committed to a psychiatric hospital. Andre was now on his own with no family to depend on for food and shelter. It was hard because he had never been in charge of paying his utilities and rent on his own. He was struggling to keep up with life, and Laura ended up limiting how much visitation he received with Andre Jr. Andre was left alone for his dark thoughts to consume his mind. He believed Laura was a filthy woman and that Andre Jr. was the Antichrist. He believed he was experiencing déjà vu and would often use duct tape to cover his mouth in order to avoid speaking with anyone, including his family. He also rationalized in his mind that the dollar bill contained the meaning of life with the text and images on them. A year after Laura had her second child with another man while still married to Andre, Andre's substance abuse and mental struggles got worse. He was excessively using cold medication. With a family history of substance abuse, no one in his family seemed to care or demand he seek help. It wasn't until March 5th when a friend went to him to a mental health clinic to receive some help. Andre told the staff that he was going to step in front of a bus if they refused to allow him to speak with someone. Some staff members told Andre that it was in his best interest to go to the emergency room and to get a judge to order an emergency detention order. This was too much information and work for Andre, so he did not take their advice or suggestions. It was the first time he attempted to receive help, and he was turned down. A few weeks after that visit to the mental health facility, Andre hurt himself in the chest with a sharp object and was finally taken to an emergency room. He interpreted the advice he received from the mental health facility as he would not get help unless he was injured and went to the emergency room. While in the ER, he told staff members that he wanted to cross over into heaven, so a physician arranged for him to be sent to a psychiatric facility. Andre was finally going to get the help he needed, but he walked out of the hospital before receiving the order. The physician who was putting in the request notified the local police department that Andre was dangerous and was on foot. Police, however, made no attempts to locate or assist him. A couple of days after his ER visit, on March 27, 2004, Andre went to Laura's apartment complex. He made his way to the 3rd floor and kicked down her door. Laura's boyfriend was at work and was unable to protect her, so once Andre was inside, he killed her with a sharp object. Her chest cavity was exposed and a portion of her lung was removed because Andre thought it was her heart. After killing Laura, Andre made his way to Andre Jr. and Leia's room, killing them both and removing their hearts as well. After killing his 3 victims, Andre attempted to unalive himself. He waited to leave this world by laying right next to Laura's body. When he realized he was not dying, he grabbed the organs he collected, put them in his pockets, and left the apartment. He walked home, put the organs in a bag, and then dumped them in the trash can. Andre then casually called Laura's parents, but they did not answer, so he left a voicemail. The voicemail said, Sherry, this is Andre. I need y'all's help. Something bad is happening to me and it keeps happening and I don't know what's going on. I need some help. I think I'm in hell. I need help. Somebody needs to come and help me. I need help bad. I'm desperate. I'm afraid to go to sleep. So when you get this message, come by my house, please. Hello? Apparently, Andre was suffering with something, and instead of waiting for Laura's parents to return his call, he decided to turn himself in to the Sherman Police Department. He admitted all of his crimes and told the cops that God wanted him to kill the victims. Each victim was killed with a different object because he believed the victims had demons inside of them, and if the blood mixed, the demons would survive. Andre was searched, and they noticed that he had wounds in his chest, so they took him to the hospital for treatment. He ended up receiving surgery, but nothing was life-threatening. Andre was arrested and was sent to jail to await trial. After spending just 5 days in jail, Andre removed his right eye with his bare hands. He was not on any drugs or medication. He said that he was reading the Bible, and when he reached Matthew chapter 5, verse 29, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out, he decided to take his out. After successfully removing his eye, he quoted Mark chapter 9, verse 47, and if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. It is better to enter the kingdom of God with one eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell. After this incident, courts ordered that Andre be evaluated. Psychologists interviewed Andre to determine if he was competent to stand trial. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and declared incompetent to stand trial. He was transferred to North Texas State Hospital in June of 2004 after his diagnosis and order. Andre spent a month and a half in the hospital medicated and receiving help from a psychiatrist, Joseph Black. Joseph wrote a letter to the court claiming that Andre was competent to stand trial because he was in a drug-induced psychosis and was exaggerating his mental illness. He assured the courts his crimes were not due to schizophrenia. Andre's attorney, R.J. Haggard, did not object to Dr. Black's findings, and he would later go on to say he regretted not objecting. He claimed that he was ill during trial with pancreatitis and was not in his right frame of mind. The trial commenced on February 15, 2005. It is unclear why, but Andre was only tried for killing Leah Hughes. There was some drama with there being an all-white jury and 3 jurors admitting to the fact that they opposed interracial couples marrying and having children. One juror was quoted saying, "I don't believe God intended for this. We should stay with our own bloodline." Typically, there is always opposition from attorneys who are representing a defendant, whether black or white, and the jury is comprised of people who are all one race and not the race of the defendant, but nothing changed for Andre's jury. While Andre was catatonic most of the time during trial, his attorneys tried to bring up an insanity defense. They said he was mentally ill and drug use just made his mental illness worse. In the state of Texas, though, if a criminal is voluntarily intoxicated, it automatically invalidates their insanity defense. They tried to bring up the fact that he removed his eye in jail while not on any drugs, but the jury was not buying it. The prosecutors did a good job claiming that he removed his eye out of impulse, not insanity. At the conclusion of trial, Andre was found guilty and sentenced to death. Andre was sent to death row at TDCJ. With professionals still not giving Andre any help and believing he was faking his illness, Andre continued to struggle on his own. He continued hearing voices and grew paranoid and fearful because he would see 6-inch demons coming out of his prison walls and playing music from the band Queen. The prison was of no help, and in 2008, he tried again to unalive himself. He failed this attempt just like all of his other attempts. He received stitches for his wounds and was sent right back to his death row cell. Appeals were made, but in October 2008, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals denied his points of errors, and his conviction was upheld. Judge Kathy Cochran wrote, "Although reasonable people might well differ on the questions of whether this applicant was sane at the time he committed these murders or competent at the time he was tried, those issues were appropriately addressed by the defense, the prosecution, trial judge, and the jury during the trial. This is a sad case. Applicant is clearly crazy, but he is also sane under Texas law." On December 9, 2008, just a couple of months after his appeal was denied, Andre removed his left eye and then he ate it. He claimed that he did this so the United States government would not read his thoughts. After the second eye was taken out, the prison finally decided to send Andre to a hospital for mental health treatment. After recovering from his eye wound, he was sent to TDCJ's Jester IV unit, which houses prisoners with mental health issues. This was the first time he was in a hospital to support his mental health struggles instead of being somewhere where they claimed he did not struggle at all. Andre had been requesting help for many years, so this came as a relief to him. In 2020, there was another appeal case brought before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, and Andre's new attorney, Catherine Carroll, claimed that Andre's original legal representation was ineffective, and they failed to object to the jurors who were openly biased about interracial marriages. She also claimed that they did not do a good job bringing up his psychiatric problems, and they failed to request a hearing to check whether or not he was competent or not. Lastly, she said that the expert psychiatrist did not have expertise in cases where mental illness was allegedly drug-induced. Prosecutors during the appeal hearing said that there was evidence to support Andre's mental issues, but he was still not insane. Attorney Carroll fought hard, but in April of 2021, the appeals court for the Fifth Circuit upheld Andre's death sentence. A year later, on November 11, 2022, Andre's execution was scheduled for April 5, 2023. That date has already passed, so he has not been executed yet. On March 7th, District Judge Jim Fallon gave Andre a stay of execution and ordered that Andre's lawyers prepare a request for a competency hearing by July 5th, 2023. Do you guys think Andre Thomas will be pardoned because he will be found incompetent, or do you think he will be executed in the next few years? Thank you all for watching, and let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments below. Recently, there was a channel to reach out to me, and I think the channel is interesting. It's called Horror Behind the Photo, and the owner of the channel is pretty genuine and kind, and I hope if any of you are interested in this kind of topic to check his page out.
Michael Rockefeller was on an expedition to study the local tribes in Dutch New Guinea when his canoe capsized. He took a swim to search for help, but he was never seen again.
Also, my buddy at the Crime Reel is so close to reaching 100K subscribers, and I would love it if some of you sub to his channel. I think he works very hard and tells stories similar to mine, but they are not specifically about death row inmates. My new channel, Jailbird Love, has a second episode posted, and there's also a new video on my Wicked Women channel. Thank you all for the support, and I will see you soon.